Why are hunters encouraged to find and kill Burmese pythons in Florida? Jake Waleri was a 22-year-old Florida native and was a college senior. It was the 10th of July, 2023, and he and 3 friends had gone out hunting pythons. He grew up surrounded by nature and pursuing activities like hunting deer and hogs and fishing. But then everything changed when he saw a program about the snake hunter Dusty Crumb on the Discovery Channel. It was all about how this hunter would find and kill huge Burmese pythons in Florida. So for the next few years, Jake went out on the roads where he lived. He had started hunting these pythons as well. He made sure to catch the smaller snakes until he knew he was capable of handling the older and bigger ones. In an interview, he told the reporter, "I've spent hundreds of hours searching Florida's roads, often coming up empty-handed. But when I'd start to catch them, I learned something new every time. It's not just about strength. It's about strategy and respect for the animal." So after a few years, he finally felt confident enough to look out for the larger pythons. So on this trip, Jake brought along 3 friends, Isabella Dorabonte, Andrew Sokolowski, and Joe Sewell. For his friends, it was their first serious python hunt. They were excited at the prospect of an interesting night. But it was well over 4 hours later, without any sightings, and their enthusiasm was waning. They had seen other species of snake, but not a Burmese python. Luckily, they finally saw one lying on the side of the road. It was an awesome sight for the hunters to behold. They used their torch and realized it was very big. Jake said later they thought it would be about 10 feet, but it was only when it continued to slither from the bush and onto the road that they realized it was much bigger. Jake approached the snake cautiously. He knew the risks. A bite from a python this size could send him to the hospital. It wouldn't kill him, but it would hurt like hell. Also, it was so big that the snake's powerful coils could crush him. He later said in an interview that he was genuinely scared. The snake kept lunging at him multiple times, and each time he had to jump back, but he was determined to catch it. As this was happening, he finally grabbed hold of the snake's neck, and one of his friends was able to get hold of its tail. By doing this, the snake was prevented from escaping. Suddenly, this seemed to anger the animal, and it started to coil around Jake's body. It was squeezing harder and harder, so the 3 friends had to act immediately. They managed to finally make the huge snake release its grip of Jake. They later told a reporter that it was trying with all its might to kill Jake. "We were doing everything we could to help him." They still had trouble subduing the huge animal until another hunter came upon the scene. He was a lot more experienced and used one of his tricks to calm the snake down. He managed to get electrical tape and wrapped it around the python's mouth. This calmed it down and they were able to subdue it. Finally, Jake was able to relax and sank to the ground exhausted. But he had an unexpected surprise awaiting him. Later, the python was humanly euthanized and handed over to the Conservancy of Southwest Florida for research. The Burmese python was measured and weighed. It was over 19 feet long and weighing more than 125 pounds. The animal was declared the longest Burmese python ever captured in Florida. Jake plans to preserve the snake's skin and display it in his home. Why do they catch and kill Burmese pythons in Florida? Deep in the heart of the Florida Everglades, an epic battle is raging. These snakes are a very invasive species running rampant through much of southern Florida. Raccoons, opossums, and marsh rabbits, once common sights, are now scarce. The snake's voracious appetite doesn't stop there. They've been known to prey on larger animals, including deer, foxes, bobcats, and even alligators. They also eat pets like rabbits, cats, and dogs. How did these snakes arrive in Florida? Back in the 1980s, these snakes were the stars of the exotic pet trade. Their awesome patterns and calm demeanor as babies made them a popular choice as pets for reptile enthusiasts. But as they grew larger, sometimes to lengths exceeding 14 feet, many owners found themselves overwhelmed. Some owners released these snakes into the wild, not realizing they were creating a problem that would spiral out of control. As they became even more popular, reptile breeding facilities opened to meet the demand. Then in 1992, Hurricane Andrew struck Florida, destroying most of them. So there were hundreds of Burmese pythons released into the Everglades. And because of the state's warm, wet climate, they began to breed quickly in the wild. Today, Burmese pythons are one of the most invasive species in Florida. Their impact on native wildlife is nothing short of catastrophic. Small mammal populations have plummeted in areas where pythons are abundant. With no natural predators other than humans and the occasional large alligator, their numbers have exploded. There is now the Python Elimination Program, which rewards hunters for every Burmese python that is caught and killed. There's also a yearly competition called the Python Challenge, with a trophy and cash prize. This is to reward and encourage hunters to remove these snakes from the wild. Have these snakes ever killed humans? While attacks on humans are rare, Burmese pythons are powerful predators. Although there are no reports of any people being killed by these snakes, the potential is there. They are capable of constricting and overpowering a human. For snake hunters like Jake, the risk is part of the job. Pythons can coil around their captor in seconds, squeezing with incredible force. Hunters often carry knives and rely on quick reflexes to avoid injury or death. But with an estimated population in the tens of thousands, it is very unlikely that they can all be killed. The goal now is to control them, to minimize their impact and protect what remains of Florida's native wildlife. For more facts about animals, click on the subscribe button.